Hey everyone, Chris here and welcome to my channel. For today's 5 on Friday, I'm going to share with you my 2023 goals. So I have 5 goals that I plan to try to implement in the year 2023. Before we get to that though, I'd like to quickly touch on my 2022 goals. So the first goal I had in 2022 was to read more nonfiction. And in an effort to do so, I decided I was going to pick one nonfiction every month and put it on my TBR before I played my TBR game, which meant that I would be reading at least one nonfiction every month, and I actually ended up with 14, so I think I completed that goal pretty dang well. The second was to continue series, because at the beginning of 2022, I was in the midst of 161 series, and I believe I was only caught up on like 35 of them. And like with my nonfictions, I decided to make an effort to complete this goal. So I created a TBR jar with all of my series to continue in it, and before I play my TBR game, I pull out 3 series, and every month I work on those series and try to get them to completion, or at least make progress on them. And I can say that I pulled 3 every single month, and every single month I read all 3 of the books that I needed to read for those particular series that I pulled from my jar. And I made a concentrated effort to work on a lot of my other series, to the ends that I managed to finish 30 series in 2022, and I got up to date on 58 while making the decision to DNF 12. So all in all, I think that was a pretty successful round, especially considering I was starting series as I did so. And another thing I tried to do with those is if I was starting, like, say, a trilogy, was to read the next book in the series in successive months so that I wasn't creating too many new series that I had to continue. My third goal was to schedule my videos so that I could be more on top of things and be more consistent with my posting, and that one I failed miserably. I struggle with that. There will be times when I have plenty of videos filmed, but I can't bring myself to watch myself back to edit them, because my anxiety means I don't want to watch myself. It is very, very awkward watching yourself talk, especially when you're talking to no one. And while it's gotten easier over the years, it is still a very, very weird experience. And I have to remind myself that a lot of the little things that I'm nitpicking, you guys probably won't even notice. And when I'm anxious or having a bad brain day, I really, really, really struggle to not nitpick myself when I'm watching my videos back, so they tend to take the back burner. So I definitely failed that, but I'm not going to beat myself up for it, because most of the time when I failed that, it was because my mental health was crap. And I definitely did use the feature to schedule for when I was feeling good, and I suddenly managed to upload a lot of videos in a short space of time, but because I had so much backlog, I kind of had to stagger how they went out. So technically was more about being on top of posting, but I did use the feature, so whether that was a win or not, I guess it's up to all of you. My fourth goal was to prioritize my physical TBR over using the library, and I don't think I did very well at that. I think I started out doing really well, and then by the end of the year, I just kept hearing about all of these books I wanted to read that I didn't own, and then I would get them from the library, and I'd have this giant pile of library books that, well, took priority over my physical books, especially when it was like, okay, well, I've got to read this next month because it's due back to the library and I have no more renewals, so let's see if I can get it on my TBR. So there could have been a simple prompt like paperback or hardcover, something that I could have easily chosen a book off of my physical TBR, and I was choosing a library book instead, so I'm going to say I failed that one. And then my last goal was to do live reading sprints or create my own readathon, and I did live reading sprints. They are usually in the middle of the night, so it usually starts around 1:30 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States and runs till about 4 or 5, depending on how froggy I'm feeling. But I did do a handful of those in the year 2022, and I expect to do them in the year 2023. They definitely help me focus and get a lot of reading done, and it is quite different being on the other side of the sprint, because I find that I'm much more likely to participate in my own sprints than somebody else's. Especially considering I very rarely watch sprints live, just because the times that they're doing them doesn't work with the times I'm reading. So it is so easy to pause sprints that I'm watching back and like walk away to do something else and then just completely forget about them. So definitely will be doing sprints in 2023. So I completed 3 out of 5 goals, maybe 4, depending on what you think about scheduling videos. So all in all, I did really good with my goals last year. And Now to dive into my goals for this year to see if I can be as successful this year. So, one of the goals that I have for this year is going to sound very familiar. It's called Continue My Series. I did so well at that last year that I wanted to continue it this year. So I already went over the progress I made when it came to being up to date or completed or DNFing series, but I'm currently in the middle of 140 series, which when you combine that with the 58 series I'm up to date with means I have 200 series on the go right now, basically. So I would like to get that number down in 2023. It will be very interesting to check in at the end of the year and see where I'm at, especially considering there's no way I won't start series in 2023. So it'll be interesting to see if I can complete more than I start to drop that number down. I worry less about the up-to-date ones just because it means I am consistent. I'm making progress. I have gotten those to a place where I can't go any farther, and it's not my fault that I can't go any farther. As opposed to some where it's like, well, I know I want to read you, but I'm going to read this shiny thing over here instead of the series I know I'm into. So we will see how I do with that in the year 2023. My second goal is also a repeat from last year, and that's basically to prioritize my physical TBR over the library. I love the library. I love being able to get books that I can't afford to buy right now or am unsure about, so I don't want to shell out the money until I've read them. I think that libraries are fantastic, but I have close to 300 unread books in my house. I need to read some of them. So I'm hoping that I can prioritize that a little bit more in the year 2023 and knock that number down a bit. I have a giant chunk of them actually that I can't read. I created a spreadsheet where I have them kind of separated into like start a series, the next in a series, standalone, can be read whenever, which covers my Warriors books basically. I don't need to read the Warriors books I have left in any particular order. I just need to pick them up and read them. And then I have this whole section of books I can't read yet. So for instance, something that springs immediately to mind is that I own books 3 and 4 in the Lockwood & Co. series. Well, I can't read 4 until I read 3. So for instance, that is on there. Then there is something like I have a book, but it's like a companion series or a second arc in a series. So kind of like with the Warrior series, you can't read the second arc until you've read the first one because otherwise the second arc won't make sense. Or like trying to read the Heroes of Olympus before you've read Percy Jackson. I mean, you could do it, but there are Percy Jackson spoilers in the Heroes of Olympus series, so you should be reading the Percy Jackson series first. I have some of those, or I've gotten like book 8 out of a little free library. And at some point, I really do need to check the series out to see if I want to hang on to book 8 and invest the time to get to book 8. So that is another thing I want to work towards, is making some progress in those that are like part of my series, especially ones where I don't own the earlier books. Because if I don't like the series, I don't need to hang on to book 8 in the series because I'm obviously not going to read that far. So prioritizing my physical TBR is going to be on my 2023 reading goals once again. My third goal is going to be to host my own readathon. I did the reading sprints last year. I really, really enjoyed them. So this year, I want to host my own readathon. I have an idea. I've kind of been working on some stuff, and I'm quite excited about it. I don't know that it's going to be anything huge. I feel like starting small and working my way up makes a lot more sense, especially being such a small channel. But I have some ideas, and I'm plotting and planning, so we'll see if I can pull that together and do a readathon in 2023. My fourth reading goal is to read more adult fantasy. I fell in love with adult fantasy in 2022, and I was really, really, really surprised. When I got back into reading, one of the first books I read was Mistborn. Well, whatever the name of the first book in the Mistborn era is, because I don't think it's actually called Mistborn. And I hated it. It put me into a giant, giant slump. And it made me stay away from adult fantasy because I kind of thought the genre just wasn't for me. And then this year, I read the Chorus of Dragons series and loved it. All 5 books got 5 stars. I adore that series. I want to do a reread already, and I read the entire thing last year. So it opened the door for me to consider trying more adult fantasies, and the more I tried, the more I found I liked. Now, I didn't love them all. For instance, I read Jade City and hated it. So I know that, like, not every adult fantasy is going to be for me, but I've definitely found that I enjoy kind of it being a genre that I can sink my teeth into more. because it's so complex and there's so much going on, and when it's well done and clicks with me, I adore it. So I would like to read more adult fantasy in 2023. And my last reading goal is very similar to my fourth reading goal, and that is to read more cozies. I was reminded this year of how much I love cozy mysteries, and it is one of the reading tastes I've had for a very long time that did not change as I got older. And I read a bunch more of those this year and was reminded just how much I like sinking into a good cozy mystery. They're awesome palate cleansers in between fantasies, whether they be adult fantasies or YA fantasies or even middle grade fantasies, as they're just such a different break from that fantasy trope. It's nice to sprinkle in with some nonfiction and historical fiction. They're just easy, fun, quick reads, and I would like to read more of them in 2023. So there you have it. Those are my 5 goals for 2023. I feel like they're pretty doable. We'll see. It'll be interesting to check back in 2024 and see how I did. I would love to know a goal that you have for 2023. No matter how big or small your goal is, I would love to hear about it. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me shamrock emojis, like 4-leaf clovers, for luck, so I'm lucky with my goals. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!